Take my hand, oh Abba Father, show me what you say. Guide me from within my spirit, I will let you be.
Good night. That was loud. What's going on, y'all? So tonight we're just going to be painting, or I'm going to be demonstrating how to paint clouds. As you can see, I got myself a second easel. Super excited about that. And we're just going to be using that for tonight. Eventually, I'm going to be doing a bunch of bigger projects throughout the week. But for now, I'm going to show you all how to do clouds. And I'm going to, once I'm done knocking this thing around, here we go. It's a little stiff still since it hasn't been broken in. Going to be painting clouds. Just going to show you all different methods of painting them. And this is going to be using the dry, like wet on dry method, which just means basically there's no extra solvents or mediums involved. It's just your brush and oil paint, and that's it. And you can use acrylics for some of these techniques, but I would not recommend it. So what you're going to need is your whatever brush that you use. You can use either a filbert brush number 8, number 6, or 4, or you can even use a fan brush. It honestly does not much matter. Now, if you want to get kind of like a wavy cloud, then you're going to want one of these, which is a fan brush. Hey, Sheila. Good to see you. And this was actually upon the request of Sheila. So if y'all wouldn't mind sharing them out. Oh, goodness, the internet's crashed again. Fun times. Let us know if there's anything you can do on your end, or on our end. Well, you could stop crashing. That would be wonderful. All right. So the first thing I'm going to just do is just paint in the little sky. It does not matter what color of blue. We're just going to use blue as a reference color. I'll do like maybe 3 or 4 different types just to give examples. And y'all can buy this if you want it for $100. It's honestly not going to make too much of a difference to me if you want it or not. This is just a demonstration painting. So you paint your corners, just do it real fast. And wherever you want your clouds, you're going to want to just leave them blank. This is one method of doing it. This is called painting in the negative space. And I'm using ultramarine blue right now. And at this point, I'm going to kind of leave in a couple extra spaces right up towards the top. Where you're going to paint in a couple fluffers. Little fluffy ones. Or not little fluffy ones, big fluffy ones. And we'll say this is our horizon line. So next line of business is the time of day you got to consider. So because it's daytime, most of my paintings are daytime paintings. I like to just paint with blue skies, and then gradually, the closer you're going to get in towards the center and towards the horizon line, the more white you're going to add to the blue. And eventually, once you get to the horizon line, it's going to be almost a yellow or even a pink because of the humidity catching. So next, just get a little bit of white on your brush and go and paint in the rest of the areas where you're going to have your sky. And you're not going to touch your clouds yet. This is just painting in the sky, strictly sky. And I'm painting in spaces in between clouds too. That's another thing. This is like with the light white and blue combination, it's like you're hitting the bottoms of clouds. You can add crimson or red or whatever color to kind of offset it and give it more of a shadowy feel, but you don't have to. And then the further down you get, the more white you add because it's closer to the horizon line. Unless, of course, you've got like a stormy set of clouds. So, next line of business. I'm just going to take a little bit of white. And I think, yeah, we'll get like just a hair of yellow. So I kind of grabbed a little bit too much, so I'm kind of flattening it out and smoothing it over right here on my canvas or my palette. And then I'm taking the rest of it with white because you don't want the yellow to be too profound. And then you're taking it towards this side because you want it to be the highlighted area. I know y'all can't really see it, so I'll just use a little bit more yellow just to give an example of how it actually looks. And you want to wipe your brush off after every couple of strokes if you get it mixed in with the blue, because you do not want to have green clouds. Sunlight is not green most of the time. Now I'm just doing touches and pulls. That's it. And then if you wanted to add in shadows behind it, you can take that same brush that you were using earlier to be the shadowy color. There's your shadow. Go back with the white. And that's the first part. I'm going to get y'all a little bit closer so you can see. And I apologize ahead of time if I'm knocking the camera around, because I'm seriously close to this thing. So go back in, grab that little bit of yellow on your palette, just tap it, and then pull it thin, put it at the top, wherever you want your highlights to be most profound. Then go into white, right behind it. And then we'll say we want a shadow right there. All you have to do is grab that blue and white as your shadow. And then you can even go right in behind right here, make a shadow. And switch back once again to that yellow and white. And then rinse and repeat. Do it the same way over here. Yellow, yellow, yellow. And we'll say we got some blue right here. Yellow and white. Where it's going to have the sunlight hitting it the most, You can even grab just, if you wanted to, you can make it more profound and have some yellow tips hitting left and right on the edges because we got a side light coming in. And it's okay if it's messy, honestly, because a lot of times oil paint is just really messy. That's how it is working with oils. And I'm just doing this really quick. I'm not trying to take my time on these. I'm going to show you three or four different methods before my time runs out. Here, let's drag that down just a little bit. We'll say we got this one. Another method, you could actually start carving into the clouds. So this is just by pushing paint around. You've already got real dark paint, so you can just start carving into it, making shadows, and just pulling it down like that. Get your yellow at the top, right at your edges. We'll say we've got it right here too. I'm going to take a little bit of that darker color, like that. Grab some solid white, kind of bring it around, just like so. I didn't get this one all the way covered. And be sure to wipe off your brush once you're done with your yellow. And if you touch the blue, definitely go back and wipe off your brush. So I'm using that same carving method I was showing y'all earlier. Just doing little tiny touches and pulls in between. And then you can use that yellow brush to kind of blend it out, just gently blending it out together. Wipe off your brush, go back in with that white and that yellow. Extract the backs of your clouds. You don't have to completely divide them. That's one thing that I forgot to mention. You never have to completely just cut around and cut them in half. That's not necessary. But you want to paint from furthest away to closest. So that's what I'm trying to accomplish right now by painting in the shadows first, right here. And then if you want more paint to come out, you just press harder. That's a pretty basic trick that I use a lot of times whenever I'm painting anything. I'll be gentle with it until I want to get it darker. And then I just start pressing harder. Now, just for the sake of time, I'm not going to be painting the bottoms purple. Alright. Next method is one that I use a lot, especially on like humid days. Give me 1 second. I'm going to turn this thing. So the next one I'm going to be doing right next to it is one that I use on humid days. So what I typically do with these is I'll take, we'll say, ultramarine blue, and then we'll start at the top right corner for simplicity's sake and make that super dark, super thick paint. This is actually not really a cloud technique, but you can make it into one. So I'm going to show you all anyways. So go up to the corners and then gradually, here we'll say, you're going to be real dark right now. Just gradually push it outwards until you run out of paint. And start pulling the paint out. You can go reload, but if you go reload, you're going to have to go back to the corner again. Which is perfectly okay. So I'm trying to create like a little arc or arch, however you want to call it. Either way, it's the same thing. And this is how I do a lot of my skies. Once the paint starts to get real thin, I'll come back into it and start pulling it outwards like that. And then I go into white. And actually, this works better with a kind of softer brush. So I'm going to real quick clean off this brush so I can get it done. Next, you just go into solid white, just like this. And you start lining the edges with it. You can do it other ways, but you don't have to. So I just typically like to go and pull it out, start blending it together just a little bit, or do little taps like this and work out. So it's almost like a gradient. And you can also, this is the fun thing, you can also take that same dark brush and make little dark spots in between to look like there's little holes in the humidity. You don't have to, it's just a fun thing to do. So, and just go around and around and try not to completely kill off these dark spots because they actually look really nice. Here, let me start turning it a little bit closer to that so y'all can see exactly what I'm talking about. And then you work outwards. And at this point, I like to go onto my palette and mix up almost a greenish color. Well, actually, it's more like a yellow. But take a little bit of white and yellow and mix it in with the blue. That way. It's slightly green. you can take that white and just brighten it up, because your goal is to be brighter and brighter the closer you get towards the light source. So, boom. Because in the sun, like in the humidity and humid times, a lot of times you'll have like a transition between blue, and then it'll go to green, and then it'll go to yellow. If you're not really paying too close attention to the skies, like just whenever I go out hanging at the beach, I pay attention to what these skies look like just so I can get better at painting. That's just me. But these are little tips you can do, just paying attention to the sky whenever you're out. It really does help. It's like, oh, clouds look fluffy when you do that. So I'm just adding more white to that same green color the further towards the outside I get. And then one thing you can do, you can make a darker version of that. And just poke a hole right in the middle of it if you want to create almost like a shadow. You could do this and just act like, oh, hey, we've got some clouds out here. And then you can just blend them out and just fluff them up if you wanted to. Just very, very gently. And then just roll it, roll it, roll it. Just do little circles. And if you find it's too dark like that, just go back into white and be like, hey, you must go. We cannot have you that bright. And then it turns that color. Little circular brush strokes. And then we'll do the same little circular brush stroke and just cut into it. See this little bright area right here? I know it's kind of hard to see, but that's just an example. And then you go finally into the yellow. Until you're almost completely white. And also be careful if you've got your blue right there. And just kind of line the edges with little circular strokes or taps. Either way, they work both ways. And then you can also leave in little circular strokes cutting in this way towards the edge, and then go with strictly white on top of the same brush and work around. If you find you got blue on it, just go wipe your brush off. It's that simple. And then work into that yellow. And you can do this with any size brush, honestly, but I like to use these filbert brushes. Unless I'm working big. In that case, I just start painting with a lot bigger brushes. But having these shadows in between all these makes a world of difference because it creates more depth. So right here, I'm actually going to go back into a little bit of blue. Let's tone that blue down just a little bit. Into a little bit of blue, kind of line the edges just like that. I'm going to be very gentle towards the edge right here. Oh, go away. The tip has way too much blue. And you can work your way out. Here, let's get rid of some of that blue. There we go. That worked like a charm. Just cut around it. Create like a mini shadow Like these clouds are close together, but not quite close enough to really touch. Just have a gentler shadow towards the tops because typically you won't have shadows there. Not typically. You want to change your values just a little bit, just enough to where it creates depth. You can put those shadows in beforehand and just paint over them with like a darker, oops. I love having these new ones. Now they're going to get turned into art. If you're not wearing your paint, you're not doing it right. Love the second method technique. Yes, I love it too. It's a lot of fun and it's super easy. And honestly, this method tends to work a little bit better when you have wet on wet, which is just using a medium. But considering I'm just trying to rush through this and show multiple techniques, you know, I'm not particularly worried about it. Okay, let's get a little bit more blue. We're going to go into that green and we're going to create a little bit more of a shadow in between these clouds so we can differentiate between the shadows and the colors. Just a little bit. There. And you can flip it over and just add little extra colors here and there if you want. That's literally it. It's pretty simple, yeah? And you can go in and change up and add shadows everywhere and make these clouds look completely different than they were before. It's super easy. And as a matter of fact, it's what I've been doing lately with a lot of my clouds. If you have more time, you can really fluff it up and make it look a lot better than it actually does right now. Okay. Give me 1 second. Gotta clean off my brushes once again. All right, where's my fan brush? You move your stuff around and then you lose your stuff. Well, looks like we're just using the giant. Nope, here it is. Found it. Yay! Little fan brush. That's all you need. Well, actually, you can use your big filbert brush too, so you can paint blue around it. This method is super simple too. What I'm going to do is just paint. We'll just start on this corner. We'll go super dark in the corners again because towards the top of the sky, it's darkest. And we'll just work a little bit closer towards the centers. And we'll just create like an invisible box right here. And we're just covering this portion. That's it. We're not too worried about what the sky looks like. As a matter of fact, we can go into a little bit of the sky and just mess with it. Because this method, you are more than welcome to just start horsing around. This is just covering up the entire sky with blue and then blue and white. And right now I've got a little bit of white on the brush with some of that ultramarine blue on it as well. And it honestly does not matter how much of it you cover or don't cover. You can tap it, you can squiggle it, And then you can use that same technique earlier and just kind of darken up little spots here and there. Oh goodness, that's a lot. That's okay. We'll just take off the dark parts right here at the corners. Come cut into that cloud, separate them. There we go. And this is also a form of gradients as well. And you can take, it's almost like using a pencil. Take the brightest portions and then kind of work away from it and then just kind of cut into them with that dark paint. And just tap it in if you want. You can carve it in if you want to. They both work the same way. I just like to do the little taps. It's a little bit more therapeutic for me. Matches all the frustrations I had from having to wake up today, which I didn't have any. Oh. Hey, buddy, let's cover that up. Yeah. Kind of just start pushing into it a little bit. And then we'll start working down with that blue. And we're just covering it up at this point because this is just supposed to be like far away, fluffy clouds. That's all it is. It's really easy to do. And you're just trying to cover the canvas at this point with blue because we're going to go back into it with white. And we're going to make little stringy clouds just over this white or just over this blue. There. So next, just take your little white brush or your fan. Did I say white brush? I meant fan brush. Put it into some titanium white. Goof, white brush. I guess it could be called a white brush. And then you take the corner of the brush and then you just drag that sucker and just, goodness, this would be so much easier if I had a bigger canvas, but that's okay because we're just going to kind of twist it around and make it look windy. Just twist it in your hand and keep going. They don't have to look amazing. That's the cool thing about windy clouds. They are all over the place. And that's it. That's the third method. And you could also kind of take them and do almost like a windy, or not a windy cloud, but a stringy, almost like I paint rivers. You can do that. And then you can line the tops or the tips of them, not tops, the tips, just like so. Just to kind of push them out a little bit more. There. And then like so. And grab a little bit more of that. And I'm just putting it at the edge of the knife or the brush. That's it. Just like so. Boom, boom, boom. That's it. And you can do this however many times you want, and you can actually pull it back if you want as well. It actually does look pretty nice when you pull it back and it softens it. There's no end to what you can do with it. It is fun. You changed your profile picture. I did not recognize you for a second. All right. Let's see which method to do now. Ah, yes. This one once again, just go back into your corners, darken it up, darken up that sky. With your blue at the corners and towards the top. Man, I am using a lot of ultramarine blue. Then, ha, get blended. Now I'm kind of carving out the space where I want there to be clouds. So it's going to be similar to this method, but not quite. It's going to be, oh goodness, the fan brush. It looked like something explored. I recommend trying all these methods. It's a lot of fun. Oh goodness, I still have some left over. We can use that white later. Excuse me. So now I'm painting dark to light. I'm going really, really. Here, we'll cover this up real quick because that's got too much blue on it. There we go. We'll say you got a nice hole right here. Maybe the start of one right here. Just carve out the shape that you want it to be. It doesn't matter what it looks like. Exploded. Oh, it exploded. So that's what you meant. The fan brush looked like something exploded. Gotcha. I understand now. Well, technically, paint did explode on the canvas, considering I just showed like 3 different techniques in one bout. So the next little bit, what you do is you've got all this mixed together, yeah? So now you just start taking white to that same thing, and you're using almost that gradient effect once again. And you use dark to kind of cut around it as well and create little shadows before you start painting more into it. And you can use a fan brush or a filbert brush. It doesn't matter, honestly. And go, yeah, well, I'm just taking the corner of this just to give an example. And the more you've got your whites in there, the more you can actually blend it together, especially towards away from the light source. We'll say we've got all of our light sources that way. So you got that, you got your paints inlaid, then you can just start blending them outwards towards the dark colors right over here. But you don't want to completely kill them off. And once again, I want there to be shadows over here, so I'm going to paint in the shadows first so that I can kind of make way for these light spots. You just plop it on there by doing a little touch and pull, and then you can kind of blend it outwards towards your shadows. And you can blend it slightly in with your shadows, but you don't want to completely kill it. And then if you ever find you're completely killing it, that's okay. Just grab a glop of blue and then just go back into that white and just slightly blend it together, and then you fixed it up. There you go. And same here. Fluff, fluff, fluff. Oh no. We're going to blend you out just a little bit. Yep, just like that. And then we're going to take a little bit of white, glop it on here and there. I'm just putting it on the edges. If you find yourself getting too much of it, that's okay. You can always just blend it out. But it's good to have the white at the lightest spots. I'm just using tiny circular strokes. That's all I'm using to blend. And I'm just going to come back, just kind of do little taps, not gentle taps. I'm actually pushing in pretty decently. And I'm taking that solid white color, just kind of touches and pulls right here to get my brightest points. And you can even add a little bit of yellow just to change up the flavor if you want. And we'll just blend it out a little bit around that dark spot with the darker color into that white, which in turn pulls the color into it. And then you can just gently blend it out even more. And what that does is it still leaves it light and bright, but not completely getting rid of that value that you had. Values are just shades of color. You blend it. Yes, I am using the corner of my brushes. That's a good question. I use the corner of my brushes most of the time to blend if it's a fan brush, because if you try to use the flat edge, it's going to be a disaster and a half, and it's going to look similar to this, and we're not trying to create that effect right now. We're trying to create a kind of softer, almost like this, but not quite. It's a kind of, I'm not going to say it's a refined technique, but you can even do taps around things as well. It works the same. You blend it. You cracked me up. Oh, and it's okay if you get stray little white marks in the blue. It actually adds to the sky. We'll just, you know what? I'm gonna Oh, I wish I would have shown that. That's smart. But that goes along with this. That's another method that I would love to show y'all, but it's gonna have to wait for another day because I am low on canvases. You know what? I can actually probably show y'all. Let's try this. So take that dark blue and start pushing it and around and just blending. It doesn't matter where. There. And then stop. Don't blend anymore. What you're gonna do, this is a cool technique that I kind of developed on my own. Actually, I developed these two methods by myself, just figuring by looking at the skies. But this method is basically working with what you have on your canvas already. And I'm going to try to scoot closer to the, oh my goodness, I grabbed the head of the brush. I goofed. Let me wipe off my hands. Dadgummit, who's calling me Shifty? You must know the McQuans. Or the McEwens. I don't know how to pronounce their last name. You're going to get the Shifty treatment just for that. Man, that's funny. I forgot what I was doing. Oh, okay, yeah. But basically, what you do now is what. Yes, that is funny. Laugh it up. Get your laughs out. Get your laughs out. Okay, so this method, actually, let's cover this up a little bit more with blue, just so I can show y'all. And it really does not matter at this point. You can even cut into your other clouds by doing this method. It's cool. It's a fun one. Just scrub it in, completely cover it with paint. Try to avoid hitting your other areas. Oh, that looks good. And then go back into it with one more round of dark. We'll say this is the dark point, and just kind of one more. We'll say we cut into the yes. Let's cut a little bit further into the sky. There. So you got all these dark colors, yeah? So one thing I want y'all to pay attention to is the shapes that you've left in there. I can send you canvases? Well, that would be very nice of you. I appreciate that. You don't have to. You already have my address, I'm sure. So one thing is, goodness, what was I saying? So this method is basically you follow the edges and shapes that you've already made, and it helps having darks in there already and separating them. Oh, that kind of looks nice already. I kind of want to leave it, but are you using No, I always use canvases so they can be framed afterwards. I could probably, for training purposes, use canvas panels, but I like to frame my stuff afterwards, so I always use canvases in case I ever want to frame it. And I just got two 24 by 48s that I just have not used in months or weeks or whenever I got them. So for these guys, I typically follow the patterns of the clouds. We'll say, so there's a dark spot right here, and then a medium spot right here, and then another dark spot. I like to follow those medium spots to kind of create almost the illusion of, and this is with solid white, mind you. I like to create, like, just carve out what's already there. I follow the shapes of what's already on the canvas from me messing around or me trying to just block in is what it's called. Just covering the canvas. That's what's called blocking in. Thank you. Shoot. This is what's called just like when you cover the when you cover the canvas. It's what's called blocking in. And when you've got that medium, just follow the medium around, and you can use any matter of just tapping and pulling or circular strokes. It doesn't matter. But it's following the shapes that are already inlaid on the canvas. And then you can soften it up and blend it and just pull it out if you want. But you want to leave a little dark in between so that you create the illusion of like, hey, it's got some depth to it. And then just tap in a couple little stray rogue flowers, floater clouds. Oh, here's a good example too. This one has a couple shapes right here. We'll just kind of with whatever's left on your brush. Just kind of tap it in and follow those little shapes. And then you can just leave it. Now I'm going to get y'all as close as possible to the canvases real quick and then show y'all exactly what I'm talking about. I'm going to take y'all off the stand. Yes, this method is a lot of fun. So see all the different darks like right here, and then the mediums in between? You follow those shapes and start painting white on them. But leave the darks alone, like the really, really, really darks, because those darks provide you depth. So here's the last method. Here's the third method. This one was just literally horsing around. You have a lot of freedom in that one, and you can soften them up by just dragging the paints with your fan brush. And then the gradient technique, where you're not really painting clouds, it's more like you're painting humidity. But it looks really nice, and you can turn it into clouds if you want, but you don't have to. And then there's just you're inlaying the paint. Now, I'm not spending a whole lot of time on this. This method can get really, really good looking. It doesn't look amazing right now because I sped through it. And the other ones are probably a little bit simpler to use. This one, you can make it look the best, honestly. Just because this one, when you take your time on something and you start painting it, the amount of detail you can put in it, there's no limit. It was just a quick version of it. But if you like working with just one color, I would recommend probably this method. Well, actually, it's two colors. So just this method, or if you just want to inlay all the blues into your canvas, just completely covered up, this is your method. Just having a windy day, just horse around with your fan brush and just make it swift around. You can go wild with it and then just kind of touch up the tops with it and create the illusion of clouds being far away as well as up close. That's your method. And then you've got the gradients, which is a really, really simple method. And you can honestly even soften the edges if you want a little bit further than it already is, just by tapping it or going into little blending circles with the corner of your brush to kind of, get rid of that edge. And you can even push into it if you want. You can cut into it. But ultimately, this method is used for humid days, which we have a lot of in Florida. And this one, you can use it anywhere. It can be stormy days. It can be a bright, sunny day. It could be anything. Come on. There we go. All right. This one, that's done. There's your cloud painting day. Now we move on to the main piece. I'm actually going to start working on a piece that I started a while ago, but I don't think I published it. As a matter of fact, I think I kept it private intentionally because I wanted to work on it even further and with a lot of detail and even put it into a show and not publicize. And I wanted it to dry, and it was kind of a long-term project. And this is it. I was referencing a photo on this one. This one is the gradient painting that I was, or the gradient method that I was showing y'all earlier. This is a more refined version of it, though. Thank you so much. I have never even painted a landscape before. Boop. You're welcome. It's not terribly hard. I'm going to be 100% honest. And landscapes, as opposed to animals, are a lot easier, in my opinion. Landscapes are easier because you can have all manners of rocks or trees or water or even clouds and skies. So if you do quote unquote think you've messed up, you haven't, because, you know, there very well could be a tree, a rock, whatever in nature that looks exactly like you just painted it. And on top of that, I'd like to mention, don't ever be super perfectionistic with your paintings. Oh goodness, I kicked the camera. Main reason, because when you just relax, have fun, and loosen up, it's just like when you're prophesying. When you're prophesying and you're relaxed, the Holy Spirit can flow through you. Same thing with painting. If you relax and you start flowing on the painting, you'll get it down. If you're stiff and afraid, you're not going to flow. You're going to be afraid of even putting another brush stroke on the canvas. That's just how it works. All right. And trying to think, what else could I show y'all? Well, this is just a sneak peek for y'all of my latest works, and that's it. I've been doing a lot of sand dune paintings lately, just because I do try to sell these paintings around town, and I'm going to open up an exhibit here in town as soon as I can. And I'm actually going to be selling at the farmers market and see how that works out, because you never know who comes into farmers markets. And I've got two canvases, or two easels. Thank God it finally came in. Love this thing. It was a good investment because now I can start working on my bigger paintings and make bigger versions of these and make my skies look extravagant, make my dunes bigger. I can have oceans all the way to the sides. Just imagine, this is just a small portion of a canvas. Here, actually, I'm going to show y'all real quick what I'm talking about, because I'm visual and I do not do audio learning. You could describe something to me for days and I'll just be sitting there like, what are you talking about? Show me and I'll get it. So I've got a 24 by 48 canvas that I'm going to be working on very soon. As a matter of fact, I need to push this thing up further because this thing's huge. Don't fall. So, oh goodness, don't do that. Got my double piece. Woo! I just drop these suckers down. So it clamps down. Back y'all up real quick so y'all can see exactly what I'm talking about. Look at that. Huge. Yeah. How much of this can y'all see? Y'all can see the whole thing. Awesome. Now, I used an 11 by 14 as my small piece. This is the piece that I was going to frame and stuff. And then I've got an 8 by 10. This is the piece that I was using to train y'all, or to teach y'all. Now, just imagine, this is just a small portion of what I'm about to do. Now, these, good night. Now, imagine, say, for instance, I'll just actually move this guy around, or away from here, because he's dangerous and wet. This one is not so much. Matter of fact, I'm more dangerous than he is. Just imagine, this is just the bottom portion, or about like right here, a corner. Now this is 11 by 14, and this is the 24 by 48. This is just a small portion of what I'm going to do on this big canvas. And I'm going to do paintings just like this, except with a little bit bigger in size. Using the same methods that I teach y'all. And I plan on putting a frame on it eventually. Maybe. We'll see. And then completely covering it up, having bigger skies, big oceans. Just imagine this little tiny ocean piece with the green, emerald green and blues and yellows all the way across. Skies just a lot bigger. Maybe even more sand dunes. Maybe have the ocean run under. Who knows? There's no limit to what you can do. Just be creative about it. I referenced a photo on this, but just for a small portion, like just for the sky, for the colors, and I did for the sand dunes to create, distance and depth for these. And I actually only had maybe about like this much as sand dunes. But since I referenced that, I was like, okay, I can gauge kind of where I would have what shadows, what values of what colors, and I can use that color scheme to create even more sand dunes, which is what I did. And then I just made up a tree and all sorts of grass and stuff, and even the ocean. I kind of added that myself as well with the wet sand. So it's just to encourage y'all. You can literally do just about anything with your paintings. Don't be afraid of your paint. Don't be afraid of messing up. Roll with the punches. Because when you do that, you can make different things. You can be more creative with different things. There's no limit to what you can do. All right. That's all I've got for y'all today. I'm just going to be painting by myself for the rest of the time on this piece and maybe a couple of other small pieces. If y'all have any more questions for me later, just drop in comments down below or in the review section. And on top of that, I'll pray for y'all. God, thank you for all these people who've come on, supported me, and shown an interest in art and learned from me. I bless them with taking away all that they've learned from me and just running with it. And I impart that gift, that same gifting that I have for art, I impart that to them. Everyone who's watched. In Jesus' name. All right, bless y'all, love y'all, and have a great night. Bye. End.